So here we are at the 5 minutes to go in practice. Yeah, we're talking practice here. Boys Division I and Division II. State high school championships for the state of Wisconsin. Craig Elliott, Bullstream TV, along with my partner in crime for the weekend again from ESPN Madison, Jesse Nelson. Welcome back again, Jesse.
Thank you, Craig. It's fun to be here, and this is the big finale that we've been waiting for. The singles tournament this morning was very quiet. It was kind of subdued. Everyone concentrating, and you didn't want to talk over anyone as everyone could hear us talking on the broadcast. Then you had the girls' finals, which provided some high-quality drama as we got down to the wire in all of their semifinal and championship matches. And now here we are, the Division I, Division II Boys State Championships. We've got Prairie here, who's returning as the champions from a year ago. We've got a team like Waterford Union, a team like Green Bay Southwest, some teams that have gone on runs here at the state tournament and are trying to come away with a title. It's going to be a fun sprint to the finish here when we hit the top of the hour in just a couple of minutes for the start of the Boys Division I and Division II State Championship matches.
And some familiar faces on the Sun Prairie side. Jeremy Hodgson, last year's champ singles, this year's runner-up, looking for another title.
And he's a left-hander, and we keep in mind as these lanes, which have tricky patterns out there today. If you're just tuning into this broadcast and you weren't with us earlier, the lane patterns out there very tricky, providing some low scores. We saw a 136 thrown by Amherst, who went on to win the Division II girls title. A 136 was their second game in their two-game format in this Baker system.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising the way the scoring pace has been. And I'll tell you what, I expect Jeremy Hodgson to do nothing but strikes now. I guarantee he made some service adjustments, and he wants this title after coming up short. Looking for back-to-back singles titles.
Bold predictions from Craig Elliott.
I'm telling you,
calling it already.
Got it this time. And we've got Dave Waswell joining us now from the Bowlers Show out of Kansas City. So when Dave watches, great things happen. That's a guarantee. So welcome back again, Dave. The Waz.
Thanks for watching, Dave. Dave's probably wondering who are the teams that are competing here.
Who are they, Jesse?
In our title. So we have in our first match the semifinal game, again, a two-game Baker format. So the teams will bowl one entire game, alternating bowlers on lane 10, and then they'll switch and go to lane 9 or vice versa for the Division I semifinals. We have Green Bay Southwest wearing the blue and white jerseys here on lane 10. They're taking on Prairie, who's wearing the red, black, and white jerseys. Then the winner of that one will move on to face the number 1 seed, Fond du Lac. Fond du Lac, the team that made it all the way as the number 1 seed. They just have to bowl 2 games today to try and win a state title for Boys Division I. For Division II, we take a look at Waterford Union to our right. They are wearing their gray uniforms with a green trim, and they're taking on Marinette in purple and white. The winner of that one will move on to face Ashwaubenon, which is wearing the green jerseys with the gold and white trim. They're warming up on the far end of the center, as is Fond du Lac way on the left end. We're getting all set for our matchups today. Division II, Division I, they'll be going on simultaneously. It's fast, it's frantic. We barely get any time to talk about any of the individual players because of how fast this thing moves. We'll be hopping back and forth, and it's excitement unlike anything else in the sport of bowling. It's incredible to be a part of.
In Sun Prairie, we talked about their young studs we saw earlier. Also, 3 seniors on the roster. Alex Bandley, Zach Est, Tyler Sheehy, and sophomore Quinn Sheehy joining Jeremy Hodgson and Alex. Is it Olson? Alex Olson? Was it?
Andrew Olson.
Andrew
Olson will be on
the 2 sophomores on that team. Green Bay Southwest. Dylan Henriksen, Dylan Dockstader, Michaela Batten, Trent Thomas, and RJ Dockstader. A freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a senior, and another freshman for Green Bay Southwest.
You mentioned a couple of female names there, Craig, and people might be wondering, this is the boys' final. What are they doing? Well, it's actually the boys' Coed final. So this is any programs that have either a Coed program where there's boys and girls a part of it, or that's strictly a boys' varsity program. That's who are the competitors here this afternoon.
And don't underestimate the ladies, because we saw Miss Sheehy earlier, or Megan Starry, excuse me, for Green Bay, bowl quite well in the championship match.
A pair of runner-ups from the singles championship earlier. Morgan Starry for Green Bay Southwest, and as you've mentioned multiple times already, Jeremy Hodgson for Sun Prairie, doing battle in the Division I semifinal to our left. And then don't discount this Waterford Union Marinette game over here on our right. This should be a good one too, as we get a couple of programs that are trying to vie and kind of get over the hump and win a state bowling title here. Division II, Division I. Practice is over, Craig. Let's do this.
It's time. Here we go. Welcome to Bowlstream TV's live broadcast of the 2016 Division I and II Boys Wisconsin High School Championship match right here at Dale's Weston Lane.
It's going to get loud, Craig.
It's
the Sun Prairie fans right to our left. We knew from last year when it was a home game for them, essentially winning the title at their home center. We know how loud they could be there. Waterford, we know, has a good showing from the girls' match. Ashwaubenon has a good contingency of fans. And don't forget about Green Bay Southwest. Everyone here. It's the boys' state championship matches. Of course we're going to be into it. Of course it's going to be loud. This is going to be fun. It's going to be an electric atmosphere as it's building up right now as the team breaks their huddle. Here we go.
Here we go. Who's going to start things off? Expect some fireworks. Mr. Olson, the two-hander. He's ready. Can I go? He's asked, looking for permission. Go.
Well, the first ball of the afternoon comes from lane 14, Marinette, with a 6 count on the opener. Now a pair of bowlers here on 13 and 10. Andrew Olson with a split and a 9 count for Waterford Union. We're underway.
So the Marinette team is James Jagaleski, Casey Sabowski, Nick Dry, Austin Rose, and Matthew Bell. They are competing against Waterford Union, Trey Adams, AJ Dawes, Joe Schwartz, Zach Kosevich, Jesse Mack, Jacob Murphy, Luke Bazio, and Nathaniel Rickett. And they start with a spare for Waterford Union.
Good call there, Craig. Waterford begins with a spare. Marinette and open in frame number 1. Sun Prairie and Andrew Olson nearly picked up a very difficult split there on lane 10. So a 9 count for Sun Prairie as well in the opening frame. And Green Bay Southwest with a split. So we could be looking at 3 of the 4 teams here in our semifinals, starting with opens in our first frame if Green Bay Southwest unable to convert, which they are not.
You know, it's surprising, as big a bowling state as Wisconsin is, all these great high school teams, Green Bay being a big city, to have a team that can't field a full boys team or girls with Green Bay Southwest.
And then you look at a team like Ashwaubenon just outside of Green Bay, and look how many bowlers they've got over there. There's like 12 guys on the practice lanes over there, way on the far end here at Weston Lanes. Lanes 19 and 20. Just loaded with green and gold over there.
That Green Bay Southwest team coming in as the number 2 seed on the boys' side. So they say, hey, we're here to win.
Waterford Union with back-to-back spares here on lane 13. Keep an eye on lane 9 right now. There is a sleeper behind that pin, and missing both of them. Southwest starts with 2 opens in the first 2 frames. First strike of the afternoon belongs to Marinette in frame number 3 after they started with a pair of opens in frames 1 and 2. Sun Prairie with a strike. Now they're figuring it out, Craig.
And that's a big guy for Marinette to be giving those hard high fives. You might want to put up your left hand when he's coming by. Intensity is the key right here. Harness that intensity into quality shots.
I tell you what, on lane 1 right now, Craig, a really good ball from the third bowler right there, but just left the 9 pin, and that's one of the more devastating ones when you leave that 9. You know you did everything right, and you just didn't get the pin action you expect, unlike Marinette, which now has a double working on back-to-back strikes. A crossover on lane 10 for Sun Prairie. The Cardinals getting a little help on the reverse side. And look at the spare that Waterford Union picks up on 13. Here we go, Craig. The madness has begun.
I think that's officially a washout, but it's kind of a backwards washout for Righty, but he converted it nicely.
He went Brooklyn on it to complete the spare. It was nicely done. Marinette's got 3 in a row, Craig.
Look out.
Yeah, lanes 13 and 14, they're figuring it out. Sun Prairie with a turkey of their own. How does Southwest respond? The only team yet to have a strike, and they still don't after an 8 count on the first ball here in the fourth. 35 in the third, working on an 8 for Southwest. Meanwhile, Sun Prairie with a 59 after a turkey in the third. Make it 4 in a row for the Cardinals, while Waterford Union, their anchor bowler, struggling here with a 5 count. Came up high on that one and plowed over the pins right in the middle, leaves an ugly washout.
Greek Church on lane 13. This is makeable.
Marinette gives them an opening, though, after their 3 in a row, coming up with a split that results in nothing, in 8 open.
A lot of times you leave just a 4-pin, and he chops to 10 clean. On a strike, losing a lot of count on that shot. And there's Jeremy Hodgson. What I tell you, he's going to strike. He's actually in the 2-7 spot. Interesting.
Interesting decision for Sun Prairie to put Jeremy Hodgson, the state singles runner-up, as the number 2 bowler. Maybe he's having trouble figuring out the lanes today. Not quite sure what it is.
I'll take some pressure off him, too.
Maybe he just plays better in the 2 spot. We don't know.
So we thank everybody for joining us here on the live stream. Hit that share button. Get this out there on social media. Let everybody know we've got 2 more high school championships yet to be crowned within the next 60 minutes right here at Dale's Weston Lanes.
Important for the teams that are trailing right now, Green Bay Southwest in the Division 1 game and in the Division 2 game, Waterford Union, to try and get as high of a pin count as you can. We mentioned during the girls' games, Craig, that you're never out of it in this format. You can be down by 40, 45, 50, even 60 or 70 I've been a part of before, that a team's able to come back and get a victory in game number 2 as you make the adjustment from lane to lane. It's very difficult. So we'll see how Waterford Union, how Green Bay Southwest, trailing here midway through their opening matches, or their opening games, I should say, if they're able to bounce back and cut into that deficit heading into game 2.
That's the nice thing about 2-game total pins. Even in singles competition, it's always nice to do 2 games. Because in 1 game, so many things can happen. You don't want 1 errant shot or 1 bad break to determine a champion. So these 2 games is definitely the best way to define the best players and best team out here. A lot of pin action. Leaves just a 7-pin. He crossed over his last shot. A good adjustment.
Great adjustment.
For the young man from Sun Prairie on lane 10.
Sorry, Craig, to cut you off there, but another open on lane 13 for Waterford. That is now 3 straight opens after being clean through 4 frames.
Down 27.
94 in the 7th. Waterford Union. Meanwhile, Marinette doing some work here in the second half of their game. They've got a 141 in the 8th, working on a strike into the 10th frame. Waterford with a strike. Sun Prairie, a difficult spare today with the lane conditions that we have. We mentioned that the lower scores are what we expect, and going across the lane has been the most difficult spare that we've seen throughout the afternoon or the early morning today as well. So a good job by Zach S., the number 4 bowler, I should say, for Sun Prairie, able to go across the lane to pick up that spare. A lot of revolutions on that ball. They want to get it across the lane through this oil pattern to pick up that 7-pin.
Yeah, nicely done. And a missed 10-pin
in the 10th frame. Ooh.
Very makeable 2-7 for Waterford Union. And that's back-to-back kind of weak 7s on lane 10 for that Sun Prairie team.
It is for Sun Prairie. We'll see if they make an adjustment here heading into game 2, or if they try and stick with it, maybe move them just 3 inches forward or back, see if that makes a difference. You never know. There's so many different things that could go. Could have been he was just off his mark. There's so many things you can speculate on in the game of bowling. That is a 169 for Marinette in the first game here, as the teams get prepared to switch sides.
Waterford a chance in the 10th to get 30 pins back and cut into that deficit.
And that's what I was telling you here on lane 10, Craig. It's tough to go across this oil pattern, and that's another open frame in the 10th here for Sun Prairie. So they had a chance to really build on that lead. Instead, they end up with a 203. And now Waterford with a strike to start the 10th on lane 13. If they can get a few here, they could actually cut it down to as few as 17 with a strikeout here in the 10th.
Yeah, Greek Church last shot for the anchor bowler for Waterford comes back with a very, very nice strike in the 10th. And another 9-pin for Green Bay Southwest. That's 2 9-pins over there. That one was a little bit high, but still it could fall.
Green Bay seems to be struggling with this pattern. They haven't had a lot of solid shots on their first balls. They've made some of the spares, but only 1 strike so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opens so far through 8 frames.
And
make it 6 opens
Wow.
through 9 frames for Green Bay Southwest now. A 102 in the 9th. They're down 100 pins to Sun Prairie. 101 to be exact going into the 10th frame.
Wow, that's tough.
Can never
That's
give
a
up,
tough
though.
Start.
Keep at it.
And young Miss Starry, the anchor bowler up here for Green Bay, wants to punch 3 good shots here in the 10th to say, hey, we're not giving up.
Sun Prairie can have just as much trouble over on that lane, and Morgan Starry fights back, and she's going to try and get every pin she can here to help. Waterford Union, meanwhile, ends with a 142, so they're down 27 pins heading into game number 2. That's the difference in about 2 marks.
Yeah, that open frame in the 10th for Marinette could prove very costly.
The open leaves the door open for Marinette as they head into game 2, or excuse me, for Waterford Union as they head into game 2.
How about the look on Moore and Starry's face here that first strike? She said, I got this. Just give me the ball. Let me show you how to do this, guys. One more here in the 10th.
Delivers
got a little behind it.
Oh, that was a good ball for Morgan. I was going to say that was a very smooth release. It was very confident. And for a team that struggled through game number 1, Morgan does a great job here as the anchor bowler to get some pins back. Division 2 going to go ahead and start game number 2 here, not waiting around for Division 1. Both teams deciding they're just ready to, and they're going to go ahead. And it's a leadoff strike for Marinette, while a split for Waterford on lane 14 is a problematic beginning for a team that's down by 27 pins to begin.
And Green Bay Southwest finishes 121. They would be down, what is that, 82. Switch lanes. Maybe they can take advantage of some of that good mojo on lane 10 that Sun Prairie had and try to get back into this match. Big hill to climb.
Well, the Packers threw 2 Hail Marys earlier this year in a playoff game. Anything can happen, Craig.
And there was that Hail Mary against the Lions, too.
Yeah,
Let's not
3
forget.
Hail Marys in a year.
As a Lions fan, we were so used to seeing that. We knew it was going to happen. There was no question it was going to happen.
As a Packers fan, I am not. Someday you'll make the playoffs and be relevant.
No.
Barry Sanders coming back anytime soon?
He's still got eligibility, I'm sure. He could do it.
Marinette with a sleeper behind on this spare, and that's the problem with that one. He got to attack it straight on, and the ball just curves the slightest bit in front of that pin to nick it the wrong direction, and an open frame for Marinette in frame number 2. Waterford converts after an open frame in frame number 1, and a team that's trying to come back from a 27-pin deficit has a chance to knot it up in frame number 2 for this game. That means Waterford's deficit will remain at 27 with a strike in frame number 3. Meanwhile, game number 2 underway on lanes 9 and 10. A lot of pin action on lane 9 for Sun Prairie. I wonder if Sun Prairie goes to the gym and lifts as a team on a regular basis. The way that some of these balls come out of their hands, they are flying down the track.
Very athletic team from Sun Prairie.
Two-handed release completes the spare. Meanwhile, Marinette with a spare on a bounce-back frame in the 3rd. Another split that results in an open for Waterford. So Marinette in control right now for the D2 semifinal. Winner advances to play, want to make sure I get it right, Ashwaubenon for Division 2. Winner moves on to face Fond du Lac in Division 1.
Or as my GPS says, Fond du Lac on the way here. I can't pronounce. It was very interesting here, that enunciation from my GPS on the way here. And here comes the noise on both sides of us, to the right and to the left. And if you didn't get enough bowling today with all the 6 champions we're bringing you, go to KC Sports Radio. Listen to the Bowler Show with Brian Voss, Matt Canizero talking about the USBC tournament that just kicked off. Leanne Barrett, Steve Klemkin from Storm, and Rick Ramsey and Keith Dunphy with the Waz at 5 p.m. Central. Tune in, enjoy it on the podcast. Sundays are for bowling, that's for sure. And we are right here, right now, ready to crown 2 more state champions. And another 9-pin for Green Bay Southwest.
Southwest has made some good adjustments over here on lane 10, Craig. They're just not getting the breaks. But, nearly a gutter ball thrown
now
on
there's
for
a break.
on lane 3. That would have been killer.
That could have been 0, and he manages to pull off an 8 count.
And that's what you get with that rev rate and the speed that they throw at. They force pin action. Even on a bad shot, they still knock 8 down. Spare for Southwest. Large hill to climb still. Marinette cruising. Waterford struggling. Looks right now like Marinette and Sun Prairie will be the ones to advance, but it's not over yet, Craig. Still a lot of time left. And Southwest, they might have heard me because they come back with a strike here in the 4th.
And Morgan Starr, you know what she can do.
Lane 9 seems to be the troublesome lane.
Brooklyn strike for the double for Marinette. That'll bring a little smile.
And if you're Marinette, you see the margin of the lead right now. And at what point, if you're a coach, do you start putting in some of the backups, see if they can make something happen? 10th frame, if it's all taken care of. Even 9th frame, if you know that the margin is out of reach after now 3 in a row for Marinette.
That's just about going to put the last nail in the coffin, unfortunately, for Waterford Union.
Waterford's going to be done over on lane 14.
They were down 27 coming in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're down over 60 with just a couple frames to go.
Waterford, the hot team last night as the number 4 seed as they got to the top 5 for qualifying. They beat Hortonville in the first round of the step ladder before knocking off Lomira to get to today's semifinal.
So Ashwaubenon waiting for the winner of Marinette and Waterford, and Fond du Lac waiting for the winner of Green Bay Southwest and Sun Prairie for our men's D1 and D2 state high school championships.
Southwest here on lane 10 had another crossover that nearly knocked all the pins down. That would have been the 2nd consecutive crossover strike.
But it's just another 9-pin.
And
no matter how they hit him. Hit him left, hit him right. That's the 5th 9-pin for Green Bay Southwest.
I believe Southwest intentionally slowed down to let Sun Prairie shoot that 10-pin first. Might have been a little added pressure there that created the opportunity. And now spare for Southwest in the 6th. They're clean through 6 frames. They're doing, I don't want to say as much as they can because you'd like to see strings of strikes, but they're doing the best that they can given the conditions right now to come back against Sun Prairie. But now,
as it stands, they're down 50 with 4 frames to go.
Which, give them credit for cutting into the 81-point lead as much as they have already. Lane 9 seems to be the problem lane. Marinette nearly completed a 9th frame spare there. Had a chance to go for it and give it a shot because they are far enough out of reach from Waterford Union to not be concerned about pin count. And now here comes the coach for Marinette, kind of directing traffic. I don't know if he's going to want to swap anyone else in or not. Spare for Southwest. That was a tricky way to go about that, but they remain clean through 7. Sun Prairie with a double now in frames 6 and 7. had that 82, excuse me, pin lead heading into this round.
So we will have Marinette versus Ashwaubenon for the Division II Boys Championship here.
A real geography lesson today, Greg, in Wisconsin City pronunciations for all of us. I was struggling earlier in saying Manawa.
And you live here.
And I'm the resident one, yeah. For whatever reason, Manawa has become my alunimum.
Manawa. There's a strike for Green Bay Southwest.
Southwest has a very
Keeping
good chance to
Prairie
finish this game
here.
clean.
Yeah, making them show up. They can still shoot 232, but they were down, what was it, 83, I believe,
82 pins
82.
is what my count unofficially was. Final tally for Marinette over on lane 13. I believe that says a 180.
180 for 349 total.
And Waterford Union finishing out as a formality here in the Division II semifinal. Morgan Starry in the 10th. A strike. You never know. Except when you do the math and figure it out.
Well, that's still going to force Sun Prairie to stay clean, though. This is an important shot for Zach Est. He went Brooklyn, then
look good and is
shot.
good. And with
that's the one right there.
Sun
Stay
Prairie's
behind
gonna
the
move
foul
on.
line for young Mr. Sheehy, and it's doesn't matter what Morgan Starry does. Great weekend of bowling for Morgan Starry, though. Let's give her some props for that.
The anchor bowler for this Green Bay Southwest program.
And maybe we'll see her against Kelly Kulik someday on the PWBA Tour. You never know.
Could be a strong possibility.
Just remember, we saw her right here at Wisconsin High School Championships first.
So 145 in game number 2 for Waterford Union. Waiting on their official total to pop up. I had 142 and 145.
287,
which
you
does
are
give
correct,
them a
sir.
287. So Waterford Union will finish in 3rd.
And how about that finish for Green Bay Southwest? Tough game number 1. Come back and shoot 232.
Wow.
Throw the last 5. Clean ball game. It's going to be short, but excellent game 2. Excellent finish for that team. Coach Reggie in the group there from Green Bay Southwest.
They
Something to remember.
From game 1 to game 2 by 111 pins.
And I'm sure that, unfortunately, on the ride back home to Green Bay, you think about those game 1 shots and, boy, just what could have been. And unfortunately,
6 opens was
somebody has to win,
run.
somebody has to lose, and Sun Prairie will advance to bowl Fond du Lac.
And Fond du Lac will take on Sun Prairie, trying to dethrone the Cardinals as the Division I state champions. Ashwaubenon will get their practice now over on lane 14, as we'll see them move into the picture on the right side of your screen. And now some coaching going on for Sun Prairie on this final ball, seeing if someone comes into the game late, see if he can figure out a line and maybe get him involved in.
Yeah, try something different. See what's inside. It looked like it moved in a little bit.
This is still Sheehy, but he's just trying a different line.
Yeah.
See what can happen, and gets a 9 count out of it. It looked like a pretty good ball.
Good communication. Good idea. Take advantage of your practice shot there.
A 180 for Sun Prairie. 353 the total for Green Bay Southwest. Sun Prairie's total is going to be 383. So they get a 30-pin victory. And Sun Prairie moves on. Sets up Sun Prairie and Fond du Lac on lanes 9 and 10 for the Division I Boys Co-Ed Championships. Meanwhile, over on lanes 13 and 14, it will be Ashwaubenon and Marinette for the Division II Boys Co-Ed Championship.
You see just to our right there, 3 guys from 3 different teams. I guess 2 different teams there, just kind of sharing a moment out on lanes. That's the friendships you make here at these events. And sure, you remember, Jesse, the great times you had here working for your state titles, the teammates you bowled with.
Oh, yeah.
Great things about the sport.
It was always a great time being a part of this event. I was able to be here twice competing in it, in both the singles and the team competition. And the friends you make in just one weekend, the atmosphere, the team unity that comes together as you're competing throughout the day and supporting one another. You never want the momentum to be fading, so even if one player is struggling, the rest of the team trying to pick that guy up. You've got guys that are sitting out as reserves that can come in and be the total difference in a game, and it's just it's a great moment. It's a great event, and I can't wait to see what we're in store here for in the championship games, because all these teams that we see here in front of us are highly competitive, talented, and it should be just a gut-wrenching finale here for what has been a dramatic day.
And we've got it live right here on Bowl Stream TV. Jesse, we talked about the format, 15 games of Baker to get here, all the games today, the head-to-head matchups. How much work and what was the format for these teams even to get to this weekend? How do they qualify to get this far?
Well, what you do is you all have your individual districts around the state of Wisconsin. The teams are not divided into their typical high school conferences as you would see for basketball or football or baseball, but instead you have districts, which are more geographically designed, and then there is a qualifying. Well, usually if you win your district outright in the regular season, you automatically qualify to state. And then on top of that, there's a district tournament at the end of the year, which follows a similar format like the state tournament does, where it's a total pin count over 10 games. And then there's a district tournament to figure out who's going to be the overall district champion, just like a conference tournament for college basketball going on this week.
So
and
a couple
then
different ways
of
to
that,
qualify.
you take a percentage of each district, and it's based on population and how many teams you have in your district and whatnot. And that's where you get your qualifiers that come to state. So there's 3 sessions that go on at the state tournament. It's 20 teams, at least in the boys' ranks here, per session for a total of 60 qualifying teams that come to the state tournament. Wow. Of those 60, you bowl 15 games, either Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, and then they take the top 5, and then seeds 3 through 5 bowl Saturday night in a stepladder tournament, 4 versus 5. Winner plays 3, and then the winner of that one moves on to today's finals.
And these bowlers are competing for scholarship money as well, so that's always a nice bonus.
There's a $500 scholarship that goes to the winning teams on each side, so that's a nice bonus to be competing for and adds a little incentive, as if a state title wasn't enough already. And Craig, you mentioned that some of the Marinette and Ashwaubenon players were shaking hands beforehand and kind of having a friendly moment together. They may know each other just from competing against one another on a regular basis.
Sure.
Marinette, not all that far outside of Green Bay, which is right near Ashwaubenon as well, so the team is very familiar with one another. Just as we saw earlier between Amherst and Manawa in the girls Division II final, those two teams from the same district, kind of rivals that really wanted that competitive edge to go out on top against one another as foes throughout the entire regular season, and now you meet in the state championship, adds a whole new level to it.
On our D2 side, I'm not sure if there's a preferred lane. The scores were low on both sides. The D1, lane 10 was, without question, much higher scoring than lane 9. If you're Fond du Lac coming in, which one you want to start on?
If I'm Fond du Lac, I want to start on 10 because I want to jump out to that huge advantage, try to morally gain an advantage psychologically on top of Sun Prairie. And then meanwhile, if I'm over on lanes 13 and 14, I don't think there's a huge difference. But what we saw, not only was 10 the high-scoring lane, but 9 was a very low-scoring lane for both teams.
Yes.
So as we look at the edge there, to jump out to a 70-pin lead or so, if that's the difference that we're looking at on average, I'd rather be on lane 10 for game 1 and jump out to that start instead of finishing there and having to worry about overcoming any kind of a deficit.
Yeah, and having to play catch-up. You don't want to have to do that.
Take the sure thing. and then try to make up for it later on if you have to.
We saw Sun Prairie make a big adjustment on lane play on lane 9 on their fill ball. So let's see what Fond du Lac picks for their starting lane and how it all plays out. Here we go. Division I championships. Wisconsin State High School. Dales Weston Lane. Sun Prairie versus Fond du Lac Division I. Marinette versus Ashwaubenon Division II. Craig Elliott from Bullstream TV with Jesse Nelson from ESPN Madison. And here we go.
You hear the excitement there as the teams break the huddles. I wanted to have everyone take in that moment as we get ready for this state championship match. And the first ball belongs to Marinette. And all 10 go down. We're underway in the championship. Does Ashwaubenon have a quick response? A crossover, yes.
Take that.
Rule number 1, Craig. Never complain about a strike.
So all our viewers out there, especially the new viewers to Bullstream TV, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to become a follower of the page so you get updates every time we go live or post an event. And the chat is open. Let us know who you're rooting for. Who are you watching? Do we have any more alumni out there that have bowled this event? Let us know. Chime in. And fire away with questions if you have them. Marinette goes a little high for frame number 2. And Fond du Lac chooses start on lane 9. Very interesting.
Interesting decision there for Fond du Lac, yeah. I got to say right now, I'm skeptical of the decision. And they start with a 9 count. It came up high on the head pin there. You kind of heard the pin action as it occurred. That's never a good sign. That means everything's slow developing. And if you're Sun Prairie, you start with a 9 count there with a very makeable spare coming across the lane, but you want to keep the momentum going that you just had, or you want to get the momentum back that you had from your first game.
And
Sun Prairie shot a 203, and it could have been better without an open in the 10th frame of that first game.
So we're a little over 5 hours into the day. How many two-handers have you seen on these 4 teams? You don't even see them nowhere, do you?
We've like
seen so many of them today.
It's amazing how two-handed bowling has really exploded onto the scene, and so many young bowlers are doing it. But the old-fashioned way with one hand, Fond du Lac picks up their first strike of the afternoon. Does Jeremy Hodgson have a response for Sun Prairie? Looks good. Gives a swing of the arm as all of them go down, and Sun Prairie and Fond du Lac going toe-to-toe on lanes 9 and 10.
And that's 3 out of 5 strikes for Jeremy Hodgson now after he had a whole bunch of 9 spares in his championship singles match. Getting comfortable here
over on
in
lanes
the Baker.
13 and 14, Craig. A lot of ugly first balls over there and a couple ugly shots altogether. Ashwaubenon opens the 4th. They've opened the 2nd and the 4th for a total of 54 through 4 frames. Meanwhile, a strike for Marinette in the 4th. Had a bad split in the 3rd frame, but the anchor bowler comes back strong, and that's a doubler for Marinette.
Trip 4.
Crossover strike for Ashwaubenon. They'll take it. Craig, can you hear the Sun Prairie fans?
I think there's at least 2, maybe 3 of them back here, but they're very, very loud.
I thought last year they were just loud because we were at their home center for the state title match, but no. They travel well, evidently. Fond du Lac not going to let them run away with the crowd noise, though, after a strike. Fond du Lac Dutch through 4. Ashwaubenon, oh man, that's a tough break over there on lane number 14. And a unique situation here on lane 10. A 5 count, that's a 1, 2, 8, 6, 10.
That's an odd leave, to say the least.
I can't remember the last time I've seen that leave.
And that's what these type of patterns do, though. Your ball gets into some strange rolls and goes through the pins in odd ways, and you see that Oh, and a 7-10. Do we get the $100,000 7-10 conversion like on ESPN? Probably not.
That's the first 7-10 split that we've seen today in all of our championships and semifinal matches. Marinette. Oh, well, I got distracted by Sun Prairie attempting this spare, and only one pin comes away for the Cardinals. That could come back to bite them. That was not only makeable, but you got to get at least 3 there.
So Blake Schmidt going for this spare, the two-hander.
And that's the situation, you just get 1.
Yep. It's on a strike. Get your count. 88 in the 5th. For Fond du Lac, Sun Prairie 61 on open in the 4th. Sheehy up here in the 5th to try to strike and keep things even in this match early on.
Marinette got the back door of the doubler there with the sleeper behind it, and that's an open in the 7th. 105 in the 7th for Marinette. Marinette finished with totals of 169 and 180 in the first games.
Interesting looking at the difference in styles between Sun Prairie, big, strong, powerful team. Over on the D2 side of Ashwaubenon, much straighter, much more direct, keeping the ball in play. Just keep makeable spares, force your opponent to throw 2 and 3 in a row to try to beat you.
And you wonder why Ashwaubenon has excelled here this weekend. The straight line is really what does it.
And a missed 10 pin for Fond du Lac.
And that could be big. That comes back right to help Sun Prairie after they're open in the 4th. A 9 spare in the 5th, and here's the ball in the 6th. And a 7 count. It was a bit strong there. I think our bowler was a bit amped up for that one, a little too
good
fast.
Call. He was definitely amped up on that one. He blew that right through the break point.
Andrew Olson.
Luckily just to leave a bucket minus an 8 pin there.
Andrew Olson, the bowler in the 6th position, in first position, I should say, for Sun Prairie. Meanwhile, a strike in the 7th. That's the number 2 bowler for Fond du Lac. That's got strikes in both the 2nd and 7th frame. We'll see if they make a change or keep the same lineup. Spare converted for Sun Prairie. Now we'll go back to the 5th frame. 78 for Sun Prairie with a spare in the 6th. 88 for Fond du Lac, who opened in the 6th. Interesting gamesmanship as Fond du Lac's about a frame ahead of Sun Prairie. Sometimes that can help the confidence of a team to be a little further behind and not worrying about what the other team's doing. Hodgson kind of reached back like he swung and either hit his hip or might have tweaked something almost, it looked like, as he knew something was wrong. Spare for Fond du Lac in the 8th. Meanwhile, over on lane 13, Marinette trying to pick up a spare to stay with us. Thrown out there a little long, but
I thought he missed that.
He didn't look happy about it.
No.
That's a 10th frame spare. Max 153 for Marinette if they get a strike here. Meanwhile, Ashwaubenon, the kicker didn't take out the 10 pin there. Fond du Lac's into it, and strike in the 9th. 2 opens for Fond du Lac, back-to-back in the 5th and 6th. They're clean otherwise. Sun Prairie just the 1 open in the 4th so far.
So 142 for Marinette, 181. So it's at a 39-pin lead. 152, 29-pin lead for Ashwaubenon going to game 2 as they switch lanes.
181 to 152 the final over there. Marinette trying to salvage as many as they can in the late goings. Might not be enough though. 29 against a pretty consistent Ashwaubenon team here. Could be tough.
Yeah, with the way Ashwaubenon's playing, you expect they're going to shoot in the 170s. That means Marinette's got to shoot 202 teens.
And so far their high game was the one they was a 180, which was game number 2.
And we're pretty even in our other match here.
Yeah, this Division 1 one's going to be a fun one to the finish.
Well, you go Brooklyn, you throw 5 pins at that 10, and it just stands there and stares at you. That wasn't very nice.
I told you earlier, I'm a firm believer those pins are always out to get me.
I'm starting to agree with you. It's a tough Wisconsin wood in those pins.
Max 177 for Fond du Lac with the final ball coming in the 10th.
And Sun Prairie on a 177 pace as well.
Well, wouldn't that be something? Convert the 10 pin in the 9th, an important spare there. Meanwhile, our Division II championship game has begun. Marinette and Ashwaubenon in the first frame, in an open frame for Marinette. You can see a little bit of dejection there. Well, Ashwaubenon returns the favor. And Marinette cuts the lead by 2 after both teams open frame number 1.
And lane 10 right now is not playing as high scoring as we saw. It looks like it's getting a little touchy. Looks like they bumped in a little bit, and you definitely can't get too up with your speed. Ball just not reading at all. So
9 count on the final ball there for Fond du Lac does create a 176.
Very difficult 2-8. Need to hook it on this pattern.
And looks good, and is. With a strike here, Sun Prairie would pull within 1. Spare for Ashwaubenon, the first mark of game number 2 to keep pace. Or correction, there was actually a scoring error over on lane 14 where the ball hopped out of the gutter, I believe, and indicated a spare, but it was actually an open. Weird that we could hear ourselves think there for a moment. And a strike for Tyler Sheehy on his last ball. How about that? 175-176 in game 1 for the Division I state championship.
And we'll switch lanes and go right to game number 2. A very strange 5 count for Ashwaubenon. Picking the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 off the rack. Is that right?
Whoa.
I believe so.
Yeah. And they almost converted.
I'm not sure I've seen that before.
Some doozies out here on Weston Lanes today. A spare for Marinette, their first mark of game number 2. They're going to need to go on a run here, down by 29 heading into the action.
A strike will get them down 22. Some opportunity, a big shot for Ashwaubenon there. Coming back after that open frame.
Meanwhile, the teams break the huddles and they're set to go on lanes 9 and 10 for the Division I championship. Strike for Marinette. That'll help their cause. They're going to need some breaks from Ashwaubenon, though, as Sun Prairie begins with a strike. Nearly a 7-10. You see the look of for the bowler for Ashwaubenon there. He's able to come back, though, relieved that he has a chance
Can you
to pick
spell
up the
that?
spare.
A chance? That's exactly what he was looking like, though.
And a split on ball number 1 for Fond du Lac. Remember, just a 1-pin differential. Might as well be nothing at all.
That ball's got to go a lot. Oh,
and it does. And you see the adjustment to go across the lane. You wouldn't be able to do it normally like you do on any other house pattern. So that ball had to come very slowly and just amble its way all the way across the lane.
You see the
a unique way to pick up a
You see the coach just giggle and say, what did he just do? Talk about adding some more gray hairs to a high school coach. That just did it.
Just making it interesting.
Oh.
And then a strike after it. Ashwaubenon in control of the Division II state final. Sun Prairie striking the first 9, spare in the second. Fond du Lac opened and another split in frame number 2. Sun Prairie with an early advantage over Fond du Lac.
Oh, and the 4-9.
Well, that leaves an opening for Marinette, though they're going to have to string some strikes together in a hurry.
And again, we need to make this backwards washout. We've seen this 3 or 4 times now today from the right-handers.
Got a chance, and just a little high on it. Another open for Marinette, and it looks bleak for the team in purple. Meanwhile, Sun Prairie with a mark. They're 3 for 3 through the first 3 frames. Fond du Lac needs to come up with a mark here on lane 10. This one's coming up Brooklyn in a 9 count. Well, there's a strike for Marinette over on lane 14 in the 7th.
You know, if they can strike out, they can force some marks for Ashwaubenon, but it's a tall order right now.
Well, and there's a split.
So we were 29 pins. Was that the difference?
29 was the difference, yes. Ashwaubenon a 181 in game 1. Marinette a 152. Another 9 count for Sun Prairie. If they can keep making their spares, Fond du Lac's having a tough time on lane 10.
And here we thought lane 10 was going to be the high scoring one. That's why we're out back here and they're out there.
Well, we're a little too old to bowl for high school bowling teams.
Well, I have eligibility for high school. I never got to bowl high school. I could go back, maybe, for 1 year.
Going across the lane, picking up the spare, Marinette, but they don't need spares. They need strikes. Sun Prairie's good with spares right now, though, as Fond du Lac just picked up their first mark on lane 10 in the 3rd frame. Sun Prairie's 4 for 4 marks. All strikes and 9 spares. Here's a strike for Fond du Lac, but now we switch over to lanes 13 and 14, where Marinette finishing out on lane 14. There's a strike in the 9th.
Let's do some bowling math. They can go 174, so that means 145 is what Ashwaubenon needs to.
Well, there is a chance here in the 10th
they're on
for Marinette.
143 pace, so Ashwaubenon can strike out.
Sun Prairie with a strike on lane 9. That's the Cheersy here behind us. Marinette a reverse. No, 9 count.
And that'll do it.
And that should do it over
Marinette
on
could have
lane
struck
14.
out to actually win. But unfortunately, a 6 pin.
And by Ashwaubenon picking up that spare, that'll seal the deal.
Yes, it does.
Ashwaubenon's going to be your Division II boys high school bowling state champions for 2016.
Bringing another bowler to fill the 10th frame that hasn't had a shot to throw yet today. Nice job by the coach. Give everybody a chance. So congratulations to Ashwaubenon. Great finish. A 2nd place finish for Marinette. Let's jump back over now and go full screen on this very intense Fond du Lac Sun Prairie. Got the whole place, including Jesse Nelson, standing to watch this one.
It's exciting, Craig. Now 3 in a row for Fond du Lac into the 6th frame. Both bowlers beginning the 7th frame here. 4 to go in the D1 title, and it's anyone's game.
A 9-pin lead right now for Sun Prairie as both teams get up in the 7th frame.
Jeremy Hodgson. He was flush, and he left a ringing 7. Tough break for the left-hander. Now, what are they going to do to make it? Are they going to trust Jeremy or
tie
bring
it
the
up right
right-hander?
here?
Well, instead, it comes up high. Just no action on that ball.
We'll see the team shaking hands over here for Ashwaubenon and Marinette. Great job, guys. Nice bowling.
Ashwaubenon finishes with a 142 for a 323 series. Meanwhile, Marinette with a 153. That brings them to a total of, I'm having a tough time seeing that over
305.
305. Thank you, Craig.
So Hodgson converts his spare. And
that gives Sun Prairie
this is a difficult 3, 6, 9, 10. That sleeper back there,
yes, it is.
as we heard Kelly talking about, is not
Looks
an
good,
easy
is
shot.
good.
Very well done.
That's a difficult spare, and a nice job picking it up.
I mean, it's probably a 50-50 on that spare for most bowlers, so he did it well in this situation.
So through 6 frames, 127 Sun Prairie, 114 Fond du Lac. Both teams spare in the 7th. 3 frames to go.
And that 6 spare cost him a lot on count on that 3-bagger, too. But he did convert it.
You can hear the excitement, the energy for Sun Prairie.
So a strike here for John Schaefer to stay within 12 pins in this championship match. boys Division I Wisconsin State title on the line. And
Comes
he
straight
reached
at it.
church.
Oh,
Well, and now you bring in somebody that can make this, I think. I mean, you still got a couple frames, but the couple pins and count probably doesn't matter at this point.
no. At
I
this
think
point,
you
you
make
need a
it.
mark, right?
Who on your team on the bench can get up there and take a shot at this? Kick that 6-pin over, take out the 4-7 with the 9-10.
Probably one of the fastest throwers that you have would be the one that you would want. Meanwhile, Sun Prairie trying to keep it rolling, and it's
And they're sticking with John Schaefer.
well, let's see what he's got with the plastic ball. Takes the 3.
All right.
Safe play there for Fond du Lac. Gives him a 137 in the 8th. Well, they're going to be down almost 30 pins.
We have not seen this 3-6, 7-10 converted yet today. We've had 4 or 5 shots at it, and no one's even come close.
And a conversion here would all but secure the title. Could be.
Oh,
Almost,
Well, he
but it's
took
an
a run
open
at it.
9th.
all right. So 175.
Oh, boy.
They're down a pin. They can shoot 204 minus the spot.
Oh, Fond du Lac needed that strike.
Yes, they did.
They're going to have to pray for an open here in the 10th for Sun Prairie.
Yeah, any mark for Sun Prairie. Tyler Sheehy here in the 10th, and they lock up the title.
Looks good. Get them all down.
And that is the best mark you can get, and you know they see what happened there. That was the winning shot.
The
He gets
kicker
mobbed.
takes out the 10-pin, Craig, and Sun Prairie is going to win back-to-back state championships.
Great tournament again for Fond du Lac, a runner-up finish here this year. Be proud, guys and coaches and family and fans. But Sun Prairie, your D1 winner again.
They're going to be celebrating all the way down I-39 onto Highway 151. The Sun Prairie Cardinals.
So
2016.
ESPN Madison's Jesse Nelson, Craig Elliott, Bullstream TV are sponsors for this weekend's events. Pepsi Classic Storm and the Wisconsin High School Bowling Association. We will do, once we finish up officially, get these last few shots in, Jesse will go down and we'll do our trophy presentations. And we will call the day. We do appreciate everybody tuning in. Stick around for the trophies.